Welcome to the Buffalo Bouffalant Wooper Club League Season 11 Draft Analysis / Breakdown. I am Illogic. I am the coach of your Buffalo Bouffalant, and I am so excited for one last Gen 8 hurrah before Scarlet and Violet come out. For a quick recap of my history in the league, I joined in Season 2 and was the champion of that Season 2 Monotype League, as well as the Season 3 Gen 7 VGC League, plus the Season 4 champion. Season 4 is where we first delved into regular Draft League, one in which only Tier 5 Mons could Dynamax, and the Bouffalant swept through the season and playoffs without even losing more than 3 Mons in any match. Season 5 was a dud for us, but we returned to win in Season 6, the Wooper Club's second draft season, this time with Gigantamax forms we could draft like Megas, but without a usable item. Season 7 was a Gym Leader Challenge season where the Bouffalant were the best defensive team, and then Season 8 we returned to a regular draft format, finally without Dynamax. We dropped in the semis in that season, but then became co-champions in the multi-battle Season 9. Finally, we just wrapped up Season 10, our low-tier season with Tier 100s and below only, and unfortunately dropped in the quarterfinals of that one. This time we're back for one last Gen 8 hurrah, a regular draft league, but with more points than usual. The tiers are split up by 20s, with 200s to 180s to 160s, and so on down to the 20-point Mons. And while normally we'd have 1,100 points to play with, this time we went with 1,300. After the low-tier season, we felt there were a lot of higher point Mons we'd love to use and mess around with before the gen was up, so this higher point total allowed all of the 200s, 180s, and most of the 160s to be picked up, with more emphasis on the higher and mid tiers, everything we couldn't have even considered last season. Thanks to everyone I chatted with about the draft, from the Burbs to the Close Combat Club to the Wobbuffets to the Bulldors to the Steamrollers. Anyone who helped me out in any way, I am appreciative. With that said, let's get to the actual draft breakdown. So out of 14 coaches, I was the 10th overall pick. Definitely a larger number than we're used to of total coaches, but I have a little experience in 8-bit draft leagues where they have 16 coaches. Conveniently enough, there are 10 Tier 200, so I was guaranteed to grab one of those if I wanted it. However, there were a couple I wasn't too keen on for a first-round pick. Celesteela, Rillaboom, maybe Garchomp stood out as things I didn't really want. I wouldn't mind getting something like Urshifu Rapid Strike though, Dragapult's always good. But in the end, each of my two most preferred Mons made it to me at number 10 pick. I thought I'd have to dip into 180 early, but we do take those. I do miss Tapu Koko as a Mon I used to success in an 8-bit draft previously, but I picked something else I drafted in the first round of an 8-bit league previously in Tornadus-Therian for me. This really is everything I love in a Mon. It gives me a high speed tier to start off with at 121. It gives me access to all of my favorite moves: U-Turn, Knock Off, Defog, and Taunt, plus a versatile move pool of offensive moves, the ability to invest in physical or special offense, or physical or special bulk, and even Nasty Plot for a potential sneaky sweep. I'm telling you, catch me with a helmet set one week, then an assault vest the next, then boots for dedicated defog, then a weakness policy set with Nasty Plot. This Mon does everything and will do it well every single time. A few fun moves we get access to that I haven't mentioned include Hurricane or Air Slash for a stab. We also get things like Heat Wave, Grass Knot, Crunch, Psychic, Rain Dance, Icy Wind, Sludge Bomb, Super Power, Dark Pulse, Bulk Up, Focus Blast, Foul Play, anything and everything you might need. It's rare that I pick a top tier Mon more than once because of how tough it is to be able to get to use a plethora of those top tiers. While my first experience with it was so positive, I've got to get another crack at it. I was torn, get it, between a few picks for my next one. On one hand, I really wanted a bulky steel type to pair with the Tornadus to resist the ice and rock moves that should be coming my way and punish Scarfers trying to outspeed me. On the other hand, my steel type could tear everything to shreds. This is my first foray into the world of the 180-point Kartana, but color me impressed with the sheer power this thing exudes. 181 base attack is just stupid. 109 speed to go with it is kinda ridiculous, and even 131 defense can go a long way and take neutral hits on that physical side. I am paper thin on special defense, but we can play and plan around that a good bit, I think, especially when we can take advantage of switches with things like Swords Dance, or just a fat attack like Knock Off or Stab, Leaf Blade, and Smart Strike. Not too much coverage, but honestly, just enough. We've got the stabs as mentioned, plus the knockoff already mentioned. We also got Sacred Sword, Psycho Cut, Aerial Ace, and X Scissor, plus that potential Swords Dance. Band and Scarf are pretty obvious, but Life Orb to switch moves and something like Lumberry could have a place as well. Beast Boost is so sick too to help us get absolutely out of control with the attack stat. There may even be an opportunity to run something cheeky like a speed boosting set on Kartana where we run 0 attack EVs and 19 IVs with max speed to give the Beast Boost to speed. If I'm confident in getting a Sword Stance up and that I can get a KO after that, we can't be revenged and we stomp. Seems like a bit of a tricky Mon to use for sure, but I'm looking forward to the sheer power of Cart wrecking through teams. I think this will be the key piece determining whether the season sinks or swims. Next up, I had a couple of very strong ideas about what to do. I really wanted Magnezone to pair the physical Frail Cart with the special bulky Magnezone for my 2 steel types, but the Magnezone got picked up later in round 2. Instead, I got a very pleasant surprise. Back when I thought I'd have to go with a 180 for my first pick, I thought about grabbing the early Hydreigon and Aegislash, infamous for resisting every type in the game. Wouldn't you know it, Hydreigon was still available more than halfway through round 3. I just could not resist. This sorts out some speed tiers at the top, 121 to 109 to 98, and gives me so much more. U-turn is a real big standout, with my top 3 mons pivoting into Cart, while also being able to swing big itself with Dark and Dragon attacks, 2 very tough to resist typings. An underrated part of this mon are the stats. It has the qualities of a pseudo-legendary, so it's got 92 in HP and 90s in defenses, plus a more than usable attack stat of 105. We've also got the ability to boost on the physical side, or go bulkier with Roost too. This gives me a big ghost resist should I need it, which is very tough to find normally, plus an element to resist with everything Dragon gives me, meaning my only real team weakness so far is Ice, which I do need to patch up. We've also got our 3rd booster with a 2nd Nasty Plot user, which could also go Dragon Dance for speed and power on the other side. As for some other notable moves, oh boy, watch this. We've of course got Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, Crunch, Outrage, Flash Cannon, Flamethrower, Rock Slide, Thunder and Ice Fang, Thunder Wave, Hydro Pump, Earthquake, Taunt, Superpower, Focus Blast, Earth Power, Stone Edge, Head Smash, Dual Wing Beat, Scale Shot, Aqua Tail, Tailwind, Defog. Sheesh, that is a lot of flexibility and coverage. Anyone coming to a match expecting me to bring a standard Scarf with Dragon and Dark coverage with U-turn may be taken aback by all the weird stuff we can do with this beautiful beast. Even though we have more points than usual, we do have a limit, and after starting with a 202 180s, we at this point have the fewest points remaining in the league. That said, the rest of the draft, small spoiler, is 120 points or fewer, though we are going to load up quite a bit on those 120s. It's a solid top 3, so I'm fine with that. I'm more than okay with that. I'm happy that it worked out this way. But I'm even more so okay with it when we combine them with excellent mons like this Swampert I got in round 4. It's a rock resist, which I also really needed, something a little sturdier than the Kartana. It's very important that I get my first stealth rocker as well, and it's a reliable one. It's another pivot piece with flip turn, and generally very bulky with a single weakness, which is covered by literally everything else on the team thus far. Would have been nice to grab an ice resist, but we'll have to take this for now. It's tough to find rockers that are also resistant to ice. And this neutrality, although weakness to freeze dry, is a little annoying. I think this works out just fine. Swampert has so much bulk too, it's kind of silly. So this is the part of the draft where we really lean into that bulky offense idea, considering the other versatility that Swampert has. We can run things like lefties, of course, but also Helmet is a natural fit. Rindoberry makes a lot of sense. Choice Band, even if you want those fat flip turns. Lumberry is kind of interesting too, if someone's trying to toxic or burn us. And we can lean in on our bulk and power in either direction real easily. I think you're seeing where the team is going. Unpredictability is going to be key for us. Of course, the standard moves like flip turns and rocks are going to come often, but still. We're also looking at something like Toxic being a key piece. We've also got fun things like Yawn and Roar to keep the pressure on in some weird ways. Add in some stabs like Earthquake or Earth Power, plus Scald or Waterfall, in addition to Ice Beam or Ice Punch for a bit of coverage, plus Rock Slide, Brick Break, Endeavor, Iron Tail, Superpower, Body Press, Bulk Up, Darkest Lariat, Counter, Mirror Coat, and even Focus Punch. The versatility isn't as high as, say, Torn, but for a 120 point mon, it's bulky and reliable and slots right into the team real well. For my next pick, I was a little worried about Fairy type starting to go, and I already had one in mind out of everything that was left. For 100 points, Slurpuff provides Sticky Web access plus Wish and Aromatherapy on defensive stats, but also Belly Drum and Calm Mind sets for an offensive approach. The stats of the Cupcake aren't that impressive, but it's the incredible move pool and the ability of Unburden that transform this into something everybody must prep for. Not prepped for Sticky Web, Kartana and Hydreigon would love the extra speed jump on faster or Scarf mons. Not ready for Belly Drum, Citrus, Unburden, Drain Punch and Player Off will KO entire teams very quickly. Not ready for the coverage on the special side, Surprise KOs galore, or Draining Kiss to provide an annoying wall. It's so tough to switch into Slurpuff before you know what it's going to do, which leans into my team's unpredictability around the Kartana. Aside from what was mentioned, it's also got things like Flamethrower, Surf, Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, Psychic, Yawn, Magic Coat, and a kind of neat Misty Explosion for a strong move that could stop hazard removal in its tracks. Real neat mon for 100, gives me a solid Fairy type which completes a Fantasy Core too, and is something that needs to be on everyone's minds moving forward. The biggest issue with the team is that I still do not have an Ice-type answer. Ice Beam and Freeze Dry are threatening to ruin the entire team without any worry at all. Luckily, we were able to grab a solid defensive Fire mon in the 120-point Arcanine. Darmanitan was on my radar too for a long time, but for 20 points more, we would have lost out on the Intimidate and Flash Fire abilities of Arcanine, the solid 90-80-80 bulk, the mixed versatility of wide physical, special, and support move pool, plus the recovery of Morning Sun, and the priority of extreme speed. All this while keeping the strong Flare Blitz, 95 base speed, and the ability to pivot, though with teleport instead of U-turn. For the Bouffalant, this is definitely the play over Darmanitan. Boots will probably be the play most often, but lefties and things like Expert Belt and such will have their places, especially with 3 defoggers so far. We've also got Flamethrower, Play Rough, Solar Beam, and Dig for funny power herb strats, Roar, Will-O-Wisp, or Toxic to go with Morning Sun and bulky sets, Snarl, Crunch, Iron Head, Overheat, Close Combat, Dragon Pulse, Wild Charge, Psychic Fangs, and even Scorching Sands for some interesting coverage. Versatile mon for sure that wants to play bulky but also has the move pool to catch something off guard. Arcanine fits in perfectly. I would normally look at the first 6 picks of a team to determine how it looks, but it's a little strange in this case considering we're going to have 2 more 120 picks and a couple holes left to plug, so we'll take another look after round 8. For now, I was very happy that the 120-point Nidoqueen made it back to me as my grounded poison type and my second reliable stealth rocker, and one that doubles as a toxic spikes setter as well. My other favorite part of Nidoqueen, aside from a respectable 76 speed, 90, 87, 85 bulk, and deceptive 92 attack and 75 special attack boosted by sheer force, is the move pool, especially on the special side that complements the team. For example, grabbing a sheer force boosted Ice Beam and Thunderbolt user along with Stab, Sludge Wave, and Earth Power is an amazing pair up with the special coverage boost boasted by Hydreigon and Torn, among others. And in the defensive profile, and once again the ability to hit from either side, and we've got some great options. In addition to the aforementioned, we've got Superpower, Rock Slide, Fire Ice, Thunder Punch, Brick Break, Flamethrower, Earthquake, and Poison Jab from the physical side. Serve, Iron Tail, Shadow Ball, Crunch, Taunt, Dragon Pulse, Focus Blast, Stone Edge, Body Press, Counter, Disable, Dragon Tail, Sucker Punch, and a 100% accurate Toxic. Versatile, bulky, and surprisingly strong with the right coverage, Nidoqueen makes so much sense for the team as another Rock Resist, another Rocker, and an Electric immunity, even if it does add another Ice weakness, which is something we're going to take care of right now. I had originally planned on going into an Indeedee in this slot, a Psychic Terrain setter which could proc a Seed on Slurpuff for a neat small core. However, I realized at this point in the draft that I had very little interaction with flying types. Ordinarily, I would prioritize an electric type, something to volt switch around in every game, but this time I was looking at a budget electric from 60 or 40. Without that yet, nor a rock type or even an ice type, I had both 0 stabs to hit flying with and 0 defensive answers to something like Brave Bird spam. Enter my emergency answer, Bronzong, which gives me not just a flying resist, but also another ice resist, yet another rock resist, another reliable stealth rocker to spread out what will bring them each week, and that defensive steel type I'd been looking for earlier to pair with the offensive Kartana. Bulk is of course the name of the game, and frankly the synergy with Bronzong's weaknesses is even better than expected, with Ghost and Dark being resisted by Hydreigon plus either Fire or Ground, and the final weakness, depending on ability, being covered in some part by Tornadus, Swampert, Arcanine, and entirely Hydreigon, making this pretty close to that coveted Hydreigon core. We don't have the same firepower, but we do have a strong body press with Iron Defense, plus Gyro Balls and Headbutt, Psychic, Toxic, Screens, Future Sight, Rock Slide, Earthquake, Trick Room, Trick, Shadow Ball, Grass Knot, Meteor Beam, and funnily enough, another Explosion piece. This was a pick of necessity, but I honestly really love how well it seems to plug in defensively, so I have high hopes for the newly minted 120-point Bouffalant. So, I promised the look after round 8. So here we go. I like to look at the top 6 mons, which should be your most reliable, and see what kind of team we've got when we fall back to our 6 best. Tornadus, Kartana, and Hydreigon at the top, supplemented by 3 of Swampert, Arcanine, Nidoqueen, and Bronzong. We've got rockers, defoggers, pivots, knockoff, most of our cores, easily ability to hit from either side, great defensive synergy, especially built around the Tornadus, and multiple win cons that jump out. That's pretty sweet. The speed tiers are a bit thin, and coverage for a couple of types like water and flying are still a little troublesome, so we're going to grab our electric type now for 60 points, Jolteon. I am not the biggest fan of Jolteon, but I cannot deny the 130 speed provides a boost for the team, and the ability to pivot with Volt Switch or Baton Pass is something I really love. Add in a little potential for cheekiness, like Baton Passing a sub, Shadow Ball for at least good neutral coverage, Wish with that fast pivot to let something else tank the incoming hit, Heal Belt to let something like Kartana recover from a status, Yawn to force switches, Toxic for ground type switching in, and maybe even something cheeky like Magnet Rise. I think Jolteon can do enough to come to a couple different matches and threaten its speed with fast pivots and achieve something very interesting while giving me that extra speed tier up top, which I do appreciate. Not too many points left. This isn't exactly the way I wanted to get Amon to fill the speed gap between Arcanine's 95 and Nidoqueen's 76, but the 20-point Pinsir is actually one of my favorite Pokemon, and at base 85 speed is more than usable in a couple different roles. I'm not going to say Pinsir is the best one ever, but I do like the ability to run something like Scarf Moxie while spamming close combat, Earthquake Knockoff, or Stab X-Scissor, or if I'm really feeling it, Swords Dance or Stealth Rock could make an appearance too. It's not that much, but for 20 points, Pinsir is something I like and has the potential to come to more than one match, which honestly is pretty good, especially considering even in the low tier season, I was able to bring something like Marowak to more than one game. That is something that I highly value in a 20-point mon. So I got my 20 points there because I still have an 80-point mon left that I wanted to grab. I think this is the first time I've reused a mon between regular Wooper Club draft seasons aside from Tangela, but with the water weakness looming, the desire to have a better matchup against fire types, and a want for more special defense to complement something like the Kartana, I turned towards old reliable Mantine. I was so impressed when I used it in Season 6. Mantine has earned the right to come back for another round with the Bouffalant. Water Absorb, Ground Immunity, Fighting Resistance, and all the special bulk you'll ever need. Mantine fills a very real and important niche. I love the ability to run Defog on here instead of Torn as well, which should free up my top tier mons a good bit more, and not force them to have to defog to support a team that should be supporting them. Mantine is also a solid Toxic user, stalling out with Roost, and can provide stalled burns in a pinch alongside Flying Stab next to Torn. Mantine has a surprisingly large move pool, but mainly on the physical sides. Don't be surprised when I bust out the Choice Band Mantine with Earthquake, Seed Bomb, Gunk Shot, and more. It is nice to have the Ray back in a position of comfort where I know what it can do and will do when it comes. That will wrap up the team. Going down the speed tiers, we've got Jolteon at the top with 130, followed by Tornadus-Therian at 121, Kartana at 109, and then a Hydreigon at 98, Arcanine at 95, Pinsir with 85, Nidoqueen with 76, Slurpuff at 73, Mantine at 70, Swampert with 60, and Bronzong down at 33. Decent. Would be nice if one of those in the 70s was at like 105 or 115, but I at least got my personal goal of 2+ mons of at least 110 speed, and one other just below that. Hazards are Rocks from Swampert, Pinsir, Bronzong, and Nidoqueen, the last of which also provides Toxic Spikes, plus Sticky Web from Slurpuff, with removal in the form of Defog, Tornadus-Therian, Kartana, Hydreigon, and Mantine. Knockoff comes from Tornadus, Kartana, and Pinsir, pivots from U-Turn Torn, U-Turn Hydreigon, Flip Turn Swampert, Teleport Arcanine, and Volt Switcher Baton Pass Jolteon. Even with just those important moves, we've mentioned every single member of the team, which shows the utility of everything we've got. My favorite aspect of the team is something I didn't want to lean into. Something I really liked seeing in a couple of teams that I've seen that I loved, stacking 4 times weaknesses in such a way that my opponent is not incentivized to bring that coverage for anything but that one purpose. Take Hydreigon, for example. That 4 times Fairy weakness does stink, but what else is Fairy coverage doing for someone in the matchup? Not Nidoqueen, Bronzong, or Kartana, all of which resist and hit back with super effective stabs. Hydreigon would be the only reason to bring Fairy, as it's a strong net resist on the team. The same is true for the others. Kartana's fire weakness is shared only by Levitate, Bronzong, and the 20-point Pinsir, with Hydreigon, Swampert, Arcanine, and Mantine resisting. Mantine is 4 times weak to Electric, sharing a weakness with Torn, but I have 3 immunities and a Hydreigon for it, plus I guess the Kartana. Swampert is the biggest example. The Grass weakness, despite having a second ground type, is my only one on the team. And that's also with having a second water type too, with Tornadus, Kartana, Hydreigon, Arcanine, Bronzong, and Pinsir all resisting it. What is the coverage good for if it only hits 1 mon? Yes, you could potentially OHKO, or if it's not stab, to a KO the Swampert, but at what cost? That's why I'm excited about the synergies provided by the draft. Still, a lot will ride on the shoulders of the top 3. The Bouffalant surprise afforded to us by the expanded point total in the draft this season. I think the other pieces are good enough to bring to multiple games, such that the top 3 don't need to come every time, but they are good enough to bring every time if needed. That'll do it for the draft breakdown. We've got a couple of weeks to play with things. I have a couple possibilities to fix the team up a bit, but I don't want to jump the gun quite yet. We've got a very tough schedule this season, with the overall level of competition jumping up compared to the past, including facing all 4 semifinalists from just last season, so we can't afford to be messing around too much. On that note, Chad's Seattle Steamrollers are next, my 3rd straight battle against him. See ya.